Lok Targar, friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Orc Mode workout. And I am hoping it will be quiet enough here long enough for me to voice over, and if it's not, I'll just flip in some music to finish this out. A lot of lawn work been going on. Seems to have just finished just as I finished my good mornings, though about 10 minutes after, so I'm hoping I can get this voiceover in. Today was max effort squat day. And I went back with chain weight, the heaviest chain weight I usually use, because about 4 or 5 weeks before I hit the 502 box squat, I got 405 with 101 pounds of chains. This exact same chain set. And in fact, I might have had them run to where they were slightly easier. I would need to recheck the footage because at this time the chains actually completely come up off the ground. So it might be a slightly different strength curve, might be harder on this one, I need to check, but either way I'm counting at 101 pounds, same chains I had on for that before, and we got a really good PR. Now, I showed it in slow motion earlier to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek, but as I ramped up, it felt good. Like I got to, I think 412 plus the chains, and it went up really fast. So I try to just focus upon, again, keeping that chest up, head up, shoulder blades down and back, trying to keep the elbows down and back because I do tend to get that thoracic rounding near the top, which is a quad weakness. Now, people are going to say, Jason, your quads are looking pretty big and they're growing, but you guys have to remember my quads are big relative to someone who squats 400 pounds. They're not big relative to someone who squats 600 pounds. So what do we have to do? We have to keep them growing. And we're still seeing a little bit of that quad weakness here. And it's probably going to be my weakness indefinitely. And as far as the thoracic strength goes, all I need to do is keep doing all the accommodating resistance and, my good morning and stuff, and that'll cover it. I need to focus more and more on quads as I get better at my squatting. But as you guys notice, when I get to the 432, which is what this is, for people who are wondering about the math, remember it's a 52-pound bar. That's what TDS advertises this bar at on their website. So 432, so that's a 27-pound PR with these chains. So based on that, by the time we get back around to a raw squat again, we should hopefully see the same amount, at least the raw box squat. Because a 27-pound PR on this assistance exercise will hopefully translate into similar strength, particularly if I keep my quads growing. And I'm going to keep pushing these step-ups. Yes, I do them on my GPP days, and you guys will see me do GPP work again tomorrow. I'm going to start filming those. So I'm just going to vlog this stuff so that you guys get a fair amount of general physical preparedness footage and everything else. Because some people might be thinking that I'm slacking off on some of my assistance work because I only do a small amount on these main days. It's there, but it's not extremely large amounts. It's respectable amounts, and I just try to train hard at it. It's because I do a lot of metabolic conditioning, which has a resistance component. I'm doing hundreds of chin-ups and pull-ups every week, all these glute ham raises, hundreds of extra body weight step-ups. You guys remember I weigh 220 right now, so me stepping up onto that 20-inch box, which is, I'm using the 20-inch side, which puts me below parallel. Pretty tough even with body weight, over 100 reps or so done over time in a day. It's extremely fatiguing. But even then, we do this barbell. This is 70 pounds. It's a 65-pound bar, and yes, I put a 2.5 on each side because I did it with the normal straight bar with 65 last time. So we went up to 70 pounds. We want to get progressive overload, right? We want progressive overload on this. And these were hard. Like, I'm not going to lie, these were really challenging. Particularly my body weight plus that 70 pounds. We're talking about, depending upon how much weight's taken off on the shin on the one side and everything. We're talking about close to 290 then. Close to 290 stepping up on each leg for sets of 10. It's very fatiguing, particularly coming out of that deep squat position. But it's what I have to do. This is one of the reasons my quads are growing right now. Because my quads have to grow to keep that squat moving. The quads have to grow. So it is all about balancing all these different performance elements and training all your weak links. We have to do the max work. We have to do the speed work. But we also have to do all these supplemental lifts. So we come in and we hit our weakest and smallest muscles with large amounts of volume. And the way I'm doing it these days, I'm just sticking to mostly 10s. Come in and do 3, 4, 5 sets of 10, in some cases more, with pretty hard, pretty challenging sets, where we're getting pretty much about failure by the last set. Challenging sets of 10. Come in and just hit effective volume. Pick exercises carefully. Like in this case, if we need more quad for squatting, something like this is very difficult to beat, because I'm putting an enormous amount of tension on that lower quad out of the bottom, doing it with the same hip pattern as a squat, training each leg independently, always starting with the weaker leg, and then maybe my very final set, I finish with the weak leg again so that it gets one extra rep, right? One extra rep for the whole workout. So we help with the balance. We help with the unilateral balance, and really powering through on each of these, hammering the weakest part of the quad as it transfers to the squat to get more explosiveness through the squat coming out of the bottom, so we can keep that bar speed up, so that we can get rid of some of that lean to where my upper back compensates. And this works. So we want to always hammer our weakest links. Instead of thinking in terms of, which muscles does this big exercise work? As someone had just said in my comments earlier, well, box squats don't work the quads. Box squats work your quads. In fact, my quads are my weak link on my box squat. They work your quads. But if your quads are a major issue for you, we do supplemental work. Advanced lifters don't have the luxury of going, this one exercise is going to handle all of my development for this one muscle. Well, best of luck with that. Not if you're going to get as jacked and as strong as possible. You can build a heck of a base with that mindset. And it works very well for a novice. It's very well for a novice. But at a certain threshold, we have to do these supplemental lifts and pick the stuff that's going to give you the most carryover. You pick the stuff that is going to transfer to your bigger lifts effectively. So you want something that's going to give you maximum hypertrophy, that's easy to recover from. That's what we want, maximum hypertrophy that's easy to recover from fatigue. That's the reason I select some of the exercises that I do. That's why I do sets of 10. We're just getting effective volume. That's a very good sweet spot range for it. And we're not worried about the massive tension because we're getting that on the heavy work already. It's a good sweet spot to base the majority of your accessory work on. You pick really effective accessories that will carry over at the joint angles that you want to your big lifts, but by that same token are going to give you large amounts of hypertrophy in an easy to recover from fashion. Now this lift is easy to recover from because it still replicates a squat pattern, but with very, very little loading on your back, right? And it really, really gives that power out of the bottom. It is the hardest out of the very bottom. So the quad gets put into a stretch position and it has to contract maximally, right? That's going to give you the carryover that we want. And there's very little axial loading, very easy to recover from. And we can do a lot of work with this. So it makes sense. It makes sense for this purpose, and it works. Works very effectively, but it's tough. Like I can tell you guys, it was getting really, really hard by the last set. You would think with something like this, even with only 70 pounds on the bar, but again, as it adds up, especially from that deeper angle in my body weight, it starts adding up. Definitely feel it in the quads. And it's not like you guys, I don't get like that same pump that people think of, but it is a deep burn. It's a deep burn. And especially when I do it after hitting a max, because the max has its own sort of fatigue that it generates, and you just build this off of it. But this is challenging. It's hard. But it's effective, and it works. And this is one of the big reasons people are noticing my quads have been coming up lately. Well, this has been a big factor. Not all of it, but it's a factor. And I can really only work it in today because I do all the box jumps in this same slot on my speed day. So I really can only get in and do this once a week like this, but then we do it on the Metcon days also. And that's probably having a large cumulative volume as well. And I'm really happy with all of that. And that's the other thing that people are noticing now that the guys see it. It's like, look, guys, I'm not doing what people think that I've been doing. Because I've been doing box jumps in some of my Metcon off camera. Then I started putting the box jumps on, and people were saying, oh, wow, that's the most athletic thing I've ever seen you do. Now it's a mainstay every week in my training. Now the Metcon will be on camera. And I'm going to be very, very honest there. Not all of it's going to go on camera ever. I don't want to stand around and film all of it, but I'm going to film enough of it that people get the idea. Like, I do take conditioning seriously. In the Metcon, then they can see what I'm doing and they wonder, where am I getting my extra energy turnover? Why do I eat so many calories? How am I not gaining body fat or body weight on 4,000 calories and drinking a gallon of milk? So I burned through that much. And that was the other point. You know, people said, well, how do you feel about list cardio now? I've reached a point with all of this where I'm starting to think, unless you're going to be specifically an endurance athlete, there is no point in list cardio. Doesn't help your body composition. It just burns through muscle if you use it to create a deficit. I found that out the hard way. Whereas in stuff like this, brings up your conditioning, improves your recovery, and it builds muscle. You know, when you get over to the Metcon stuff, and I'll talk about that more later. But those were hard near the end, and I did that one extra rep on the end. Then I did 4 sets of the good mornings. And I'm doing these with a wider stance. Because again, it gets more hamstring, a little less lower back, because these are very fatiguing on my lower back, especially with that bar. My neck and lower back get a lot of work. I use a safety bar, but it forces me to use a lighter weight. So let's talk about recovery. This forces me to use a lighter weight to get the same tension and torque on the hamstrings and low back. Right? Very easy on recovery, and it works my T-spine. It puts a little heavier load on the thoracic erectors. So this 205 is hard. I mean, if I were to put a barbell in a low bar position, I could obviously do more weight. But with that safety bar, 205 for 4 sets of 10, it's hard. It's challenging. Like, for me, this is hard. It might not be hard for you. It might be impossible for someone else. For someone else, this might be their max. For some of you, you might be stronger in those areas, and this is easy for you. For me, this is really difficult. Like, these are almost pretty much limit sets, even from set 1 almost. I need good breaks, at least 3 minutes to get all 4 sets. But again, this is to build my deadlift up. This will give me a supplemental lift for the deadlift, because I'm not pulling on this day. I'm rotating max effort days, and then we obviously squat and deadlift on speed day. But it works all the same muscles as your deadlift, right? All the same muscles in the back. Gives you a stretch reflex in the hamstrings, builds the T-spine. But it's a lot easier to recover from than a deadlift. So it's a good hypertrophy exercise for those things. But yeah, the 4th set was definitely all I had in me today. I'm going to get this stuff put up to you guys, and I'll work on a little bit of my Metcon. Tomorrow's going to be a Metcon day, and I'll try to get, 15, 20 minutes of it filmed for you guys like I did on Sunday, and get that into the rotation. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.